Hey guys, what's going on? This is the Conservative speaking, and I wanted to talk about Darrell Brooks. So, Darrell Brooks is a career crook. He is the man that was recently charged with 5 counts of negligent homicide when he drove his car into a crowd of people that were partaking in a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Waukesha, Wisconsin. So, Darrell Brooks, a known crook, a miscreant, a thug, a no good person, a person who really doesn't deserve to be in society, a deplorable, despicable person. This man was responsible for this action despite his rap sheet, which stretches from Philadelphia all the way out into Orlando. I mean, this really, this case, this person that I'm speaking about and this incident that happened should have never happened at all. This is a person that has had way too many bites of the benefit of the doubt apple and way too many slaps on the wrist for this person to constantly continue to keep doing what he's doing. But that's even but honestly, that's not even, I mean, that's not really even the bigger picture, although that is a major part of what I'm saying, and we'll get into that as we look into this video that was provided by Fox News. This is the simple fact that here you have a man, obviously, who has already been identified, a black man that has been identified for committing a heinous crime, and not one single peep from mainstream media. As a matter of fact, the reports that were coming from mainstream media, meaning CNN, mainly CNN, call him a person of interest and did not want to disclose the race of the suspect. That's what I find more intriguing than anything else, because obviously, had this been a white man committing the crime, his race along with the intent would have been displayed all over. CNN would have had no problem stating that not only was this a white man doing it, but this was a white man committing a terroristic act. Whereas when the mainstream media reported this, and I don't believe it was CNN that stated this. I believe it was MSDNC. They stated that actually, it wasn't either one of them. It was the Washington Post. The Washington Post was the one that stated that he fled from an alleged knife attack. But this is yet again another example of how the mainstream media likes to flip the story and make white people look like the biggest villains in the world, and they try to portray it as if it's only white people that are committing terroristic acts, when clearly this black man who drove into a sea of people, mainly white, one could say that he was committing a terroristic act towards white people. And if that's not the case, at least that's how the media would have portrayed it had that fit their narrative. But clearly that is not their narrative. Their narrative is not to make black people look like villains. Their narrative is to make white people look like villains. And this is the reason why, once they figured out that the suspect was indeed black and not white, first, they didn't even want to call him a suspect. They called him a person of interest. This came out from CNN and MSDNC. They called him a person of interest when the man was already arrested and charged with the crime. So a person of interest is someone that you're looking for, not someone that's already been apprehended. Amazing. See, this is the reason why platforms like my own should exist, because I'm able to bring you the truth. All right? And also keep in mind, this incident happened yesterday, and not one single report from any of the mainstream outlets reported on this matter. Not one single mainstream media outlet reported on this. I actually, or at least none from the left. The only way that I was able to find out about this, because I actually heard about this yesterday, although I didn't. I decided not to make a video about it until today, but the only way I was able to actually hear about this was hearing it from another from another YouTube channel. So that's the only way that I was actually able to know about this story, because none of the mainstream media, or none of the left-wing mainstream media, even reported on this matter. So I find that very, very, very intriguing to know. But clearly, at this point, are we really surprised? It's funny that the mainstream media was quick to paint Kyle Rittenhouse as a white supremacist, a white vigilante supremacist that crossed state lines with an illegal gun and was hunting peaceful protesters down. You see, this is the reason why you really need to do your homework prior to listening to the media, because you can't take anything that the media says for face value. You just cannot do it. All right? The media likes to portray their own story. They like to put their own twist in what happened, and then they want to feed it to you as news. All right? The mainstream media, all right, mainly from the left, are nothing but a 24-hour propaganda machine. That's the one thing you need to understand about the media. It's best that you go in and you dig deep and do your own homework, do your own research, and then render your own decision. Be able to come to a conclusion as far as what happened. So, without further ado, I will roll the clip from Fox News, and you will hear from yourself about this story, and then I'll be able to I'll be able to narrate in between playing the clip, but you guys will be able to get an understanding more if you were to watch the video of this particular story. So without further ado, let's roll the clip.
Into the parade.
We have information that the suspect...
Horrific Christmas parade attack that killed 5 people and injured 48 others. We're now learning the suspect, career criminal Daryl Brooks, was out on a $1,000 bond and set free just days before this terrible tragedy.
$1,000 bond. Amazing.
Brooks was charged with punching his girlfriend and then trying to intentionally run her over with his car.
Isn't that ironic? So he was let out on bail for punching his girlfriend, and then trying to run her over in a car that he in the same and I'm sure it was the same car that he used to then run these innocent people over. What a coincidence.
And police saying he was fleeing another domestic violence incident before driving into the parade.
We have information that the suspect prior to the incident was involved in a domestic disturbance, which was just minutes prior, and the suspect left that scene just prior to our arrival to that domestic disturbance. We actually had a squad and barricades up, and he drove right through.
The Milwaukee County District Attorney is now launching an internal review into what he's calling an inappropriately low bail amount. Yeah, Judge, this DA
You think?
is the guy that likes low bail. He ran on that.
Yeah, he did run on it. So
Talk about black privilege. Oh my goodness. Let's give all the privilege to the thugs.
you know, I like what he's doing. What he's doing here is he's saying, I'm going to take care of this, everybody, no problem. I don't know who the lowest person on the totem pole is who went to court on this case, but that person is in big trouble. No, it's you, the DA, who's in big trouble. And I'll tell you why. This is a rap sheet, okay? It's got, I understand it to have 50 pages.
Amazing. 50 pages. Guys, I was not lying when I said that this guy's rap sheet spread from Philadelphia all the way out to Orlando. That is amazing that a man can make a career out of being a thug. And yet doesn't really get held accountable for it until there's blood on someone's hands. Mainly blood on the streets, or blood on the streets. Amazing.
You don't know, in addition to what we know from the news, and that is that he had a felony charged against him in July of 2020. He was already out on bail, had another felony charged against him on November 2nd, and he has been violated for bail. And then he goes to court on November 5th, and they give him bail at $1,000.
Amazing. So this guy violates bail, right? Gets apprehended, and then he was given bail again. You see, this is the prime example of the system failing the people. This right here is a prime example of the system failing the people, because clearly this is a guy that never learned his lesson. This is a guy that should have been thrown in jail and the key taken away. Like, honestly, this guy, a person like him, throw him in jail, put him in jail, throw away the key. Not what other people believe is a failed justice system when a young man who did the right thing by crossing state lines and trying to ease the tensions of a riot that a bunch of Black Lives Matter and Antifa thugs were creating, where he was trying to, play peacemaker while at the same time rendering aid to people who were affected by the riots committed by the thugs. Then he justifiably shoots and kills the thugs that then try to give chase and try to harm him. And then he was found in court not guilty of intentional homicide because they found out that his actions were self-defense. Like, the man defending himself, which you do have a right to do in America. All right? That is not an example of the system failing us. That's the example of the system working for us. This right here, with this black, deplorable, despicable thug, this is a prime example of how the system can fail the law-abiding citizens that do abide by the law and do live by the norms of society.
$1,000. But that's not the least of it. This guy, in all of these charges, he's a batterer, he's a drug addict, he's been carrying a gun since he was 18 years old, and he got all the benefits of the criminal justice system. But where he's caused strangulation against one woman, then he causes strangulation against another woman or the same woman. This time it has to be a felony, and they force.
This is what you call black excellence.
The prosecutor to file a felony. But you go through this, and through all the police arrests, there's no prosecution. So this guy has used the system. The DA is the person who's at fault here, not the bail law. That you would allow a guy who just jumped bail to give him $1,000 bail is ridiculous.
And Greg, if you watch CNN, it is a red SUV that's responsible for this carnage.
It's not his fault. He was.
There you go. Rest my case. CNN blames the car instead of the person behind the car because the person was black. The person was white, it would have been the car and the person and the person behind the car that would have gotten the blame. But this is a black man, so obviously the black man has black privilege, and because he has black privilege, they can't vilify the black man because that goes against their narrative. Remember, this country is going in disarray because we have white supremacists that are controlling it. And get this, it's also going to hell in a handbasket because of white supremacy rules that are on the books. Amazing. Continue.
Was fleeing a knife fight. All right. So the root cause here is knife violence, and he was just a victim of systemic knife violence. Also, I mean, an SUV, think of the carbon footprint. You know, whoever thought that putting violent criminals back on the streets was a wise decision? I think under the rubric of reform, we let our brains spill out of our skulls. It's like we are releasing piranhas into an aquarium of goldfish. And it's not just with bail reform, it's this stuff like this. It's also interesting how the stories, depending on what narrative they sell,
I mean, and they're doing all this mainly not because they not necessarily because they care about a specific group of people. They're doing this because they're trying to get that specific group of people's votes. All right, mainly black people, because again, black people are enslaved, and we all know that black people cannot think for themselves. So obviously, when you cater to the black community, that's when you get the black vote. And no party does that better than, you guessed it, the Democrats. I know you thought I was going to say Democrats, but they're really more, they act more like Democrats. Continue.
Are turned off or turned on. I could do the story like, what if this guy was white? Because they were doing the thing with Rittenhouse. Yeah. What if this guy was black? But it's obvious that this story fulfills the wrong narrative, so it's not going to be wall-to-wall coverage. They're going to say, the same people that said Rittenhouse intentionally went to Kenosha to murder these guys will say that this career criminal unintentionally killed people, and how soon before they label him, a victim.
And the police chief said today he's charging him with 5 counts of intentional homicide. And we've been investigating his social media footprint, Harold. Man, I can't confirm it yet, but this guy is bad news. Bad news.
From his social media?
Bad
I could go by his actions.
How about we confirm it?
Bad news. I'm talking about motivation.
Right.
I'm talking about motivation.
Look, there's not much to add to this.
I mean, in the end, what this really just comes down to is the simple fact that the media likes to portray a specific image, or what they like to do is that they like to portray a specific narrative, and it's not necessarily about reporting the news. What they're morally interested in is reporting the news that you should hear, as opposed of the news that should be reported. All right. And CNN does it, MSDNC does it, NBC, ABC, CBS, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Huffington Post. I mean, all of these major mainstream medias. I mean, all of the media, mainstream media. Even the last two that I mentioned, the New York Times and the Washington Post, even though they're a newspaper outlet, they are part of the media. But all of these mainstream media outlets are just, their main thing is to focus on one narrative, and the one narrative is to vilify white people as much as they can. All right, because they're part of the woke media. They're part of the woke movement, and we all know that anything that goes woke turns to what. Anything that goes woke goes to crap. So obviously, this was a man whose race should have been identified, who past history should have been identified, and this is a person. I mean, this is an incident that should have been reported yesterday, and they wait until a day later, and then they try to spin their own narrative as of what they want you to hear as of what happened. But yes, but this is something that I wanted to put out there. Obviously, I would like to know what your thoughts are of this. So leave a comment in the comment section. Obviously, there's going to be more to come in this story. But as far as we know, this is a person that should have been locked up a long time ago, and he really should have been locked up for a long period of time. Just throw him in jail and throw away the key, because this is a person that will never learn his lesson. Satan is his daddy, and until he learns to return to the Father, things like this are going to happen to him all the time. So I like to so what do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comment section after you subscribe to my channel. Smash the like button if you like the content. Share the video and subscribe to my channel, as I'll be able to provide you more content. And when you subscribe, make sure to leave your notification bell open, so you'll be able to be notified when I come out with brand new content. And with that being said, this is D Conservative signing out. Have a blessed day.